What if I told you that nothing, absolutely nothing, has the power to make you angry unless you allow it? Think about that for a moment. Every insult, every irritation, every little thing that people do to push your buttons only has the effect on you that you permit it to have. The truth is, it's not the world that makes us upset, it's our reaction to the world. And once you understand that, you unlock a kind of freedom that most people never discover in their lifetime. This is the essence of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us how to become strong on the inside, no matter what happens on the outside. Stoicism isn't about being emotionless or cold or detached from life. It's about building a mind so steady that no insult, no frustration, no disappointment can throw you off balance. It's about recognizing that while you can't control the storm, you can always control how you steer your ship through it. Imagine living with that kind of inner strength, no longer tossed around by anger, no longer disturbed by the opinions of others, no longer held hostage by emotions that rise and fall with every inconvenience. Instead, you carry peace with you wherever you go. That's what the Stoics believed was possible, and it's just as possible for you today as it was 2,000 years ago. Mastering your emotions is not just about self-control, it's about reclaiming your life. Because when you allow others to dictate your reactions, you give away your power. But when you choose your responses deliberately, calmly and with wisdom, you step into a freedom that no one can take from you. And that's where the journey begins. Stoicism at its core is one of the simplest yet most powerful philosophies ever developed. It teaches one essential truth. You don't control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond. That is the entire foundation. The Stoics believed that our peace of mind doesn't depend on the chaos of the world, but on the stability of our own thoughts. To understand Stoicism, let's step back for a moment into history. Over 2,000 years ago, this philosophy was practiced by men who held incredible power, and by men who had nothing at all. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled over vast lands, wrote daily reflections to remind himself not to be consumed by anger, pride, or despair. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, warned about the traps of greed, envy, and wasting time on things beyond our control. And then there was Epictetus, a man born a slave, who taught that true freedom is not about your circumstances, but about mastering your mind. Their lives could not have been more different. An emperor, a statesman, a slave, yet they all shared one conviction. If you master your reactions, you master your life. That's why Stoicism has endured for centuries. It isn't just theory. It's practical wisdom for everyday living. At its heart are four key virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. Wisdom helps us see the world clearly and make good choices. Courage gives us the strength to face difficulties without breaking. Justice reminds us to act rightly toward others, regardless of what they do to us. And self-discipline allows us to control our impulses and emotions instead of letting them control us. These principles weren't meant for philosophers sitting in quiet rooms. They were designed for life's battlefield, for moments of insult, hardship, betrayal, and loss. They are tools that anyone can use, no matter who you are or what your situation may be. Stoicism asks only one thing from you: stop trying to control the uncontrollable, and instead master what is always within your reach: your thoughts, your choices, and your reactions. That's why understanding Stoicism isn't just about reading old texts. It's about realizing that this philosophy gives you a shield, an inner armor, that protects you from being ruled by anger, frustration, or the opinions of others. And once you begin to grasp this, you start to see that nothing outside of you truly has the power to disturb your peace. Every day, life throws things at us that we don't expect. Traffic jams, rude comments, disappointments, delays. Most people believe these events are what make them angry or frustrated. But here's the truth. It's not the events themselves, it's our reaction to them. The Stoics taught that the world outside us is neutral. It doesn't carry anger. It doesn't carry offense. It doesn't carry stress. We are the ones who attach meaning. We are the ones who decide how to respond. Think about it this way. Two people can go through the exact same situation, but experience it in completely different ways. One person gets cut off in traffic and spends the rest of the day stewing in anger, snapping at co-workers, unable to concentrate. Another person gets cut off in traffic, shrugs and moves on as if nothing happened. The same event, two different reactions, two completely different outcomes. The difference lies not in the event, but in the choice of response. This is the power of reaction. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control what happens within you. Your peace, your clarity, your ability to stay calm, these are never truly taken from you. They are surrendered. And once you realize that, you understand that no insult, no setback, no unexpected problem can truly harm you unless you give it permission. The Stoics urged us to pause, to create space between stimulus and response, because in that space lies freedom. When you take a moment to breathe, to reflect, to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this under my control? You break the chain of automatic reactions. You stop being a puppet pulled by the strings of anger or irritation, and you start becoming the master of your own mind. Life, then, is not determined by what happens, but by how you respond to what happens. And if you can master your reactions, you can walk through life with a kind of unshakable calm that nothing outside of you can disturb. That is the power of reaction, and it is where true strength begins. Anger often feels like fire. It rises quickly, burns hot, and leaves behind damage we regret. But the Stoics believed that even this fire can be contained, if only we learn how to manage it. Emotional control is not about suppressing what you feel or pretending you're unaffected. It's about stepping back, recognizing the emotion as it arises, and choosing not to let it control your words or actions. The first technique is simple but powerful. Pause. When anger or frustration begins to rise, resist the urge to react instantly. That brief pause creates a space where reason can step in before emotion takes over. A deep breath, a short walk, even counting to 10, these small acts give you just enough distance to see things more clearly. The second technique is perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, in a year, in 10 years? Most of the things we get angry about are small, fleeting, and ultimately unimportant. The Stoics remind us that wasting our peace of mind on something temporary is like trading gold for dust. When you zoom out and see the bigger picture, your anger begins to shrink. The third is reflection. The Stoics kept journals not as a hobby, but as a tool to master themselves. Writing down your triggers, your reactions, and your lessons learned is a powerful way to build awareness. Over time, patterns reveal themselves. You begin to notice which situations consistently push your buttons and how you can handle them better. Finally, there is acceptance. Not everything will go your way, and not everyone will treat you kindly. But expecting the world to always align with your desires is a recipe for constant disappointment. Instead, accept that challenges, insults, and frustrations are part of life. Once you stop being surprised by them, you stop being controlled by them. Emotional control is not about becoming a stone without feelings. It's about feeling everything but not being ruled by anything. It's about mastering the storm inside, so that no matter what happens outside, you remain steady, calm, and in control of yourself. That is the Stoic path to freedom. One of the greatest traps we fall into is caring too much about what other people think of us. A single comment, a passing judgment, or even a look can unsettle our entire day. We replay their words in our minds, questioning ourselves, feeling anger or shame, as if their opinion had the power to define who we are. But the Stoics taught something radically different. Other people's opinions are not under your control, and therefore they should never control your peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that people would gossip, criticize, and act unfairly, and that none of it could truly harm him unless he allowed it to. Epictetus went even further, saying that if someone insults you, the insult belongs to them, not to you. It is their judgment, their words, their perspective, not your truth. Why then should we let the noise of others disturb the calm inside us? Think about it. If a stranger shouts something unkind at you on the street, does that change who you are? If someone praises you endlessly, does that suddenly make you a better person? No, their judgments are reflections of their own minds, not of your worth. The danger comes only when we hand them the keys to our emotions, letting their words decide how we feel. Detachment from external opinions doesn't mean you stop listening to feedback or caring about people. It means you stop measuring your value by their shifting standards. You anchor yourself instead to your own principles, your values, your character, your actions, because those are the things within your control, and those are what truly define you. A powerful way to practice this is to ask yourself, if no one were watching, if no one could judge me, what would I still choose to do? That question brings you back to living for your own integrity, not for the applause or criticism of the crowd. When you detach from external opinions, you gain an incredible freedom. No praise can inflate your ego, no insult can break your spirit. You walk through life steady, knowing that your peace does not depend on the voices around you, but on the strength within you. And in that strength you become untouchable. Life is full of surprises, some welcome, others painful. Plans fall apart, people change, opportunities vanish, and obstacles appear out of nowhere. Most of our frustration comes not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. We expect life to follow our script, and when it doesn't, we fight, we complain, we suffer. The Stoics offered a different path. Instead of resisting reality, embrace it. Instead of demanding that life bend to your will, learn to bend with life. Epictetus said, "Don't wish for things to happen as you desire. Wish for them to happen as they do, and you will go on well." This is the essence of Stoic flexibility. It doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means accepting what you cannot change so you can focus your energy on what you can. It's the art of flowing with the current rather than exhausting yourself by swimming against it. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. A rigid tree that refuses to bend will snap under pressure, but a flexible tree sways with the wind and survives. That's the kind of resilience Stoicism teaches us. Flexibility is strength disguised as softness. It allows you to adapt, endure, and rise again no matter what comes. Acceptance is its companion. Life is unpredictable, and trying to control every outcome is impossible. The Stoics remind us that death, loss, change, and hardship are not accidents. They are part of the natural order. When you stop treating them as unfair interruptions and start seeing them as part of the human experience, you suffer less. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Why not me?" This too is life. The power of flexibility and acceptance is that it frees you from unnecessary struggle. Instead of being broken by what you cannot control, you adapt to it. Instead of clinging to how things should be, you work with how they are. This mindset doesn't make you weaker, it makes you unstoppable, because nothing can truly defeat a person who has learned to bend without breaking. So much of our suffering does not come from what actually happens, but from the story we tell ourselves about what happens. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. That is because the mind has a way of spinning events into painful narratives. A rejection becomes proof that we are unworthy. A mistake becomes a sign that we will never succeed. An obstacle becomes a tragedy instead of an opportunity. But here lies the hidden power we often forget. We can choose how to frame the story. Reframing is the practice of taking the same event and giving it a different meaning. Imagine failing an exam. One person says, "This proves I'm not smart enough." Another says, "This shows me what I need to work on and now I can come back stronger." The same failure. Two different stories, two completely different outcomes. The event didn't change, the meaning did. And the meaning determines how you feel, how you act, and ultimately who you become. The Stoics encouraged us to reframe difficulties as training. Marcus Aurelius wrote that obstacles are not barriers to our path, they are the path. Every challenge, every setback, every hardship is a chance to practice patience, courage, wisdom, or strength. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to say, "This is happening for me to help me grow." You can even apply this to insults or criticism. If someone mocks you, instead of thinking, "They've humiliated me," you can reframe it as, "They've given me a chance to practice humility and self-control." If life gives you loss, instead of seeing it only as pain, you can reframe it as a reminder to cherish the moments and people you still have. Reframing personal narratives doesn't erase pain, but it transforms it into something meaningful. It turns wounds into wisdom, failures into fuel, and obstacles into opportunities. The power is always in your perspective. And once you master the art of reframing, nothing in life has to be purely negative. It can always be reshaped into a story that strengthens you. One of the greatest journeys you will ever take is not across oceans or mountains, but inward toward a deeper understanding of yourself. The Stoics believed that knowing yourself is the foundation of wisdom and the key to mastering your emotions. After all, how can you control what you don't even recognize? How can you resist anger if you don't know what triggers it? How can you find peace if you've never examined what truly disturbs you? Self-understanding begins with honesty. It requires you to look at yourself without excuses or masks. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily notes to remind himself of his flaws and weaknesses, not to shame himself, but to become more aware and therefore more capable of change. Similarly, Seneca advised reflecting each night, what bad habit have you resisted? What temptation have you overcome? In what way are you better? By asking these questions, you shine a light on the parts of yourself that need growth. The second layer of self-understanding is knowing your values. If you don't know what you stand for, you'll be swayed by the opinions of others or the moods of the moment. But when you are clear on your principles, whether it is honesty, kindness, courage, or discipline, you create an anchor that keeps you steady even when life's waves are rough. Another crucial part is recognizing your patterns. Which situations make you lose patience? Which people test your self-control? Which thoughts spiral into anxiety? The Stoics didn't see these patterns as weaknesses to be ashamed of, but as opportunities to train. Every trigger is a chance to practice resilience. Every failure is a lesson in self-awareness. Self-understanding is not about perfection, it's about clarity. It's about knowing your strengths so you can use them, and your weaknesses so you can work on them. When you understand yourself, you stop being a mystery to your own mind. And with that clarity comes power. The power to pause, to choose, and to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. The more you know yourself, the less the world can control you. Because when anger, fear, or frustration arises, you'll recognize them not as masters to obey, but as signals to observe. And in that observation lies freedom. That is the gift of self-understanding, a steady, unshakable foundation from which you can live with peace and strength. Philosophy is not meant to stay in books, it is meant to be lived. The Stoics were clear about this. Wisdom is useless if it is not practiced every single day. That is why they developed simple routines and habits to keep their minds sharp and their emotions steady. These practices are as relevant now as they were 2,000 years ago, and you can begin using them right away. One of the most powerful tools is morning reflection. When you wake up, instead of rushing into your day, take a moment to prepare your mind. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself, "Today I will meet people who are selfish, arrogant, dishonest, envious." He did this not to become cynical, but to be ready. By expecting challenges, he strengthened his ability to face them calmly. You can do the same. Before your day begins, visualize the obstacles you might encounter and remind yourself, these are not under my control, but my reaction is. Another practice is evening review. Seneca advised looking back on the day before going to sleep, asking, what did I do well? What could I have done better? Where did I lose control? This isn't about self-criticism. It's about self-improvement. Each night becomes a small lesson, so that each day you grow a little stronger, a little wiser. Gratitude is also essential. The Stoics often reminded themselves how fragile life is, which made them treasure every moment. By reflecting on what you already have, a safe place to sleep, people you care about, the simple fact of being alive, you shift your mind away from what's missing and toward appreciation. Gratitude protects you from anger and discontent because it reminds you that life itself is already a gift. And then there is the golden question, perhaps the most practical Stoic tool of all. Is this within my control? Ask it whenever frustration rises. If the answer is yes, then take action calmly. If the answer is no, then let it go without wasting your peace. This one habit alone can transform the way you move through life. These practices, morning reflection, evening review, gratitude, and the control test, are not complicated. But practiced daily, they build resilience like a muscle. Slowly, steadily, you become less reactive, more grounded, more in command of yourself. And that is the ultimate goal of Stoicism. To live each day with wisdom and peace, regardless of what happens around you. We began with a simple but life-changing idea. Nothing outside of you has the power to disturb your peace unless you give it permission. Along the way, we've explored the heart of Stoicism, understanding that while you cannot control the world, you can always control your response to it. That is where true strength lies. You've seen how your reactions shape your experiences, how mastering your emotions prevents anger from ruling you, and how detaching from the opinions of others frees you from unnecessary suffering. You've learned the value of flexibility and acceptance, bending with life's storms instead of breaking under them. You've discovered the power of reframing your personal narratives, turning obstacles into opportunities. And you've realized that self-understanding, knowing your triggers, your values and your patterns, is the key to resilience. Most importantly, we've looked at practical steps you can take every day, reflecting in the morning, reviewing at night, practicing gratitude, and asking yourself the simple but powerful question, is this within my control? These are not grand gestures, but small daily disciplines that slowly reshape your mind into something unshakable. The promise of Stoicism is not a life without difficulty. Challenges, frustrations, and losses will always come. The promise is that you can meet them with calm, with clarity, and with strength. You can live with an inner fortress of peace that no insult, no setback, no storm can ever tear down. So when anger rises, when frustration tempts you, when someone's opinion tries to shake you, remember this: the power is always in your hands. You are never powerless, because your response is always yours to choose. And in that choice lies your freedom. Now it's your turn to put these ideas into practice. Take a moment today to reflect. How often do you let other people or unexpected events decide your mood? How often do you give away your peace because of something outside your control? Be honest with yourself, because awareness is the first step toward change. Starting today, challenge yourself to pause before you react. The next time someone irritates you, the next time plans fall apart, the next time anger rises, stop and ask, is this worth my peace? Is this within my control? That one question can completely transform how you respond. I invite you to try one simple Stoic practice right now. Think of something that usually frustrates you: traffic, criticism, delays, and reframe it. Instead of seeing it as a burden, see it as training. See it as an opportunity to practice patience, humility, or strength. This is how philosophy moves from theory into real life. And finally, I encourage you to share your thoughts. What situation has tested your patience recently? How did you react? And how might you respond differently using Stoic principles? Leave a comment, not just for me, but for others who are on this same journey. We learn not only from philosophy, but from each other's experiences. Remember, Stoicism is not about perfection. It's about progress. Every time you choose calm over anger, clarity over chaos, and wisdom over impulse, you grow stronger. Step by step, you build an inner fortress that nothing can shake. And that journey begins with one choice: to take back control of your own mind.